Hey everybody, we are talking with our friend Berton today. He has called in and he's had a weird experience happen just recently, so it's fresh on his mind. We're going to get into it and talk about it. So we figured we'd share it with all of you. So this is our buddy Berton. He's also a fellow content creator. So you want to tell us about your show a little bit and then we can jump into your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Berton Moran. I have a YouTube channel called Local Legends Berton Moran, and I go ghost hunting. I talk about cryptids, supernatural, and missing people, basically weird shit. And yeah, I've recently had an experience that for me feels pretty, I don't know, I don't want to say it's the most terrifying thing that's ever happened, but it's definitely sent a chill down my spine when it happened. And I guess, do I just start now?
Yeah.
The floor is yours, man.
We're ready.
I sent in a story to you guys. Oh, wow. Must have been a year ago. I know you guys had talked about it on the show before about whenever I was in high school. I had ended up moving out of my parents' house as I turned 18. And I moved down to a different city here in South Dakota. And I was staying at my cousin's aunt's house, so no relation to me. And long story short, my parents used to foster children. I grew really attached to one of them. We were like brothers. And I found out he had committed suicide. I don't want to say his name because I just don't really want to share that. But my parents called me. They let me know what had happened. And this was like after he had been taken back from the state. He lived with us for a few years. We grew really attached. And eventually he ended up committing suicide. Well, I was in the basement of my cousin's aunt's house whenever that happened. And I got really upset. I was doing laundry. I was down there by myself and I grabbed the clothes that were, on top of the dryer, washer, or whatever. And I threw them. I was pissed and teary-eyed as anyone would be, I imagine. And I was just mad. I was mad about the fact that he had done it, So I go upstairs, everybody's there. They can tell I'm pissed for some reason, but I'm not really talking to anybody. And after a while, my cousin, his girlfriend, and a couple other friends are like, well, we're going to go to the back room. You could just be pissed by yourself. And I pretty much was. But his aunt had stayed out there, and she was a really nice person, and she was trying to figure out what's going on with me. So she's, what's going on. So I start telling her what I just got a phone call about. I was really upset. And as I'm telling her this story, I have this feeling. And it's a feeling like if you've ever been in a fight before, you'll know the feeling is whenever somebody's mad mugging you, I'd call it, or just staring you down from across the room. Like, yeah, I'm going to rip this guy's head off. And it's just me and her in this room. It's in the living room, but her kitchen's off to the side. So I'm getting this feeling coming from the kitchen. There's something staring at me. She's listening, talking about this situation I'm going through. And I just get this overwhelming feeling. So I tell her, do you ever get the feeling that you're being watched? And she had this look on her face of like being concerned. And as soon as I said that to her, her face went dead serious. She looked me in the face and says, where? So I point to the kitchen area where it's happening, where I'm feeling this. And as soon as I point up there and I look in there, like she turns her head and she looks in the kitchen. As soon as she does that, all the cupboard doors open up. She had dishes on the counter. They go flying. Drawers are opening. Things are just fucking flying all over her kitchen. And at this point, my face has probably turned pure white and the blood rushed out of my head. I'm just like, holy crap, what is going on? She calmly as hell stands up. She walks over to this, what am I thinking, like a cigar box almost? Or like this little wood case that she has sitting on a counter in her living room. And she opens it up. She pulls out what I believe is sage, which I use sometimes myself. And she starts burning it, and she's wafting the smoke into the kitchen where all this shit is still happening. She's super calm about it, and whatever it is, she walks through the kitchen down to where the basement door is. The basement door is now open. She's ushering smoke down the basement door. And as she's going into the kitchen, it's almost like whenever water drains, it goes down and there's no more water, so there's no more like spinning, but it's kind of like all that shit that's getting thrown around is like slowly stopping as she's walking through it. And she ushers whatever this is down back to the basement. She closes the door. She comes back. She puts her stuff away. She sits down next to me and she's like, "Did you get upset or emotional in the basement?" I said, very calmly, she's like saying this, and I'm not calm. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So did you get upset in the basement? I said, yeah, that's where I got the phone call. I threw laundry across the room. She's like, okay, see, that's where it happened. And I'm like, what happened? And she's like, it tried to attach itself to you. So I'm like, what are you talking about? And at this point, my cousin, his friends, she herself was a foster parent. These kids come out like, what the hell's going on? So she explains, it came out of the basement. The kids are like, oh, Jesus Christ. And I'm like, what is going on? And everybody else is calm about it. I'm just like, what the hell just happened? And, like I've seen ghosts and stuff at this point, like full on apparitions in my other house, but I never had an experience like that. So they explained to me that she thinks it's a demon. And at this point, I'd like to say that I am actually kind of nervous talking about the rest of what recently happened, for the fact that it is very, very strange and very creepy.
I'm nervous for you, dog.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm actually pretty stressed out about it. I've lost a little bit of sleep over this. So, anyways, she said, try to attach itself to you. It's attached itself to my foster kids at points, and she says it's taken them over at times. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And there's this kid, I don't want to say his name, but she is one of her foster kids. And he weighs maybe 90 pounds sopping wet, you know what I mean? He is a bony little kid. And she says it took him over one time and had to perform an exorcism. And I'm like, what? And she says it took 4 of us to hold him down. And she, like, I'm not trying to be mean to her, but she's a bigger lady. She says, I sat on him and he picked me up. And I'm like, what? She said, he just straight picked me up. Like, he pushed me off of him. So it took 4 of us to hold him down, and I performed this exorcism, and now he's fine. And this kid's looking at me like, all I remember is like blacking out. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So, I'm still nervous about it. And they're like, well, do you still want to stay the night here? I'm like, no, I don't want to spend the night here. Are you insane? No. So we would go back to my cousin's house because fuck that. So anyways, going on to what recently happened. This is where I was kind of like, do I call him? Do I not call him? Do I even bring it up? But it was in my mind. So I recently had this dream 2 days ago. The same day I got a hold of you. And in this dream, I'm asked to come to this hospital. That there's a sick kid and they think something supernatural is going on with her. And I'm a ghost hunter. It's just a dream. I've never been asked to go see about helping somebody with a supernatural problem in a hospital. But in my dream, I'm like, this is something I have to do. So I'm okay. We go to this hospital. There's this sick girl. She's a teenager. She's bald. I'm like, well, this kid's really sick. It's fucking terrible. And her family's like, she's acting fine now, but she doesn't usually act like this. And we just kind of want you to sit over here and observe. So her family's coming in, they're talking, everybody's fine. And it's just a dream. Okay, so I'm thinking, I have nothing going on in my mind at this time. It's just a dream. And eventually she looks at me, and then they go back to talking to family, and this dream continued. It was a long dream. Eventually this girl stops and she just starts staring at me. She gets this big smile on her face. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? But her face starts to distort a little bit and her mouth gets really wide with this big fucking grin. And she tilts her head down and her eyes are looking at me. And I have this feeling like she's giving me that look, and I'm getting that feeling that I had that this thing was looking at me or whatever it was. Like right now, I have goosebumps going down my neck.
I was just going to show Kyle. I'm like, that kind of gave me goosebumps. Him describing her smile.
Yeah. So she looks at me and all she says is, I remember you.
Fuck that.
And what you just said in the dream, as soon as she said that, the whole experience runs through my mind. Inside the dream, I'm having flashbacks of that night, everything that happened. She said, I remember you, and I remember that. I remember the story I just fucking told you. And my first response whenever she says, I remember you, I yelled, fuck you. Sorry. I don't know if you guys, if I'm allowed to cuss. I know
You're good.
So that's just what happened. As I told this thing, I said, fuck you. And I step out of the room and it just kind of laughs. And everybody else in the dream, they just kind of stop. They didn't say anything. They all just look at me. And this thing's smiling at me. And I said, fuck you. Okay, so I wake up. It's about 3 a.m. I'm not into the whole I am and I'm not, 3 a.m. Here we are, scariest time of the night. And I get that. But my old lady, Cassie, she ended up waking up around the same time I did. But I was sleeping in a different room just because the kids had taken over the bed. So she tells me that, hey, could you run out to the store and grab me a Red Bull? Because it's like 3 a.m. I'm up. I'm like, sure. And I go and I tell her, I had this fucking dream. And I had this dream and I explained it to her just like I explained to you guys. And this is what cemented it as something I had to call you guys about. Was she says, I woke up around the same time you did, whenever that happened or whenever you were asleep. Whenever I woke up, I was afraid. She said, I had this fear that something was in the room with me and that I was going to die. She said, I felt fucking, I don't know. I've never felt that kind of fear before. I'm just like, what the fuck? And I was like, holy shit. She's like, you don't think that has something to do with what's going on? Like, what happened? I was like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Like, I said it remembered me. And then you woke up in fear in a whole different room. It's, you understand. Man. And that's kind of like, well, I was like, do I tell him? Do I not tell him? I don't want to invite this thing in any more than I already have.
How, let me think about this a little bit. How many years ago did the first experience happen? 2008. So quite a while.
It's been a while. That's why whenever I said I remember you, I'm like, it's been a long time after you fucking.
Has anything traumatic happened recently?
Not
to you that could have opened you up to something like that?
No, not recently.
Not recently.
But I don't want to drag her too much more into this, but she's been sick for the last couple of days.
Had you had your foster brother on your mind? Has he crossed your mind like the last month or so?
Like I don't mean to be like, I don't think about it anymore because I do, but it's just no, I haven't.
Yeah.
Like sure. I said, I'm a ghost hunter. That's kind of something I think about like all the time. I'm always doing something supernatural, paranormal. I'm not playing with Ouija boards or anything like that because I don't want to open any doors that I don't want to open.
Yeah, I'm just trying to go down the avenues of what could possibly have
brought it back.
Yeah, spiked it back into your consciousness.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Oh, that's
like weird. I said, even in the dream, I wasn't thinking about it until I said I remember you, and that's whenever I felt the fear again.
What about your aunt? You said it was your aunt that put her back in the basement?
It was my cousin's aunt. It wasn't no relation to me.
Aunt. Do you still talk to her?
I have not talked to her since probably 2011.
I assume she's still well.
Yeah, from my understanding, she's doing good. She's fine.
I only asked.
She doesn't live in the house anymore.
Oh, she doesn't live in that house?
Nope.
Okay, well, I only asked because who's watching the basement then?
Right.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. If she's kind of the gatekeeper on the basement,
right?
Demon, that's terrifying.
In like 2011, me and Cassie have been together for going on, I think, 12 years now. But, I told her the story about what happened. We've been to that city a couple times because it's a beautiful area, Rapid City, South Dakota. It's in the Black Hills, so it's pretty great. But I've told her this story. She's like, Jesus Christ, it's terrifying. And I've driven her to the house. I'm like, that's the house right there. And she's like, yeah, I'm not going in there. I was like, I don't blame you. I did eventually go back in like that time. And I saw his aunt again. I was like, hey, let's just stop it in, say hi, and let you guys know I'm doing good and stuff. And that was like the last time I talked to her. She's like, oh, you guys want to go to the bar with me? And I'm like, no, not really. Because we're, on a family vacation thing. She's like, oh, I understand. Good to see you and all this other stuff. But yeah, no, that was like the last time I saw her.
And like, she was literally the keeper of it, because she, like you said, she had a box ready to go when shit went south. Like, she was ready.
Yeah. And like, here's the crazy thing. Another thing with like a crazy situation with her. She's a pretty spiritual person, as you kind of gathered, I'm sure. My sister lived in an apartment in that city, Rapid City. And her husband was at work at Walmart, where they both worked at the time. Ex-husband, I should say. And she was alone in her apartment, and things started getting thrown at her out of the freaking bathroom. Like, she looks in the bathroom, things just start getting thrown, like soap bottles, shampoos. They're like hummed at her, not by her, or just on the ground, but they were getting thrown out at her. So she's hiding outside of her apartment. She called her husband at the time. She's very upset. So, that was the whole thing, that their apartment was haunted. And I told her that, my cousin's aunt. And she says, was it this apartment building and this apartment number? And I'm like, yeah. What the hell? I didn't tell her that. I'm like, how did you know that? And she says, I knew the guy that used to live there. He was an old guy. He was a real prick to everybody, but he liked me. I was like, yeah. He's like, seriously, he didn't like anybody else, but he liked me. Me and him would have conversations, but he died in that apartment. And he, like I said, he was a prick. He didn't like anybody in there. And I'm like, holy Christ. Like, if I had told her the information of where it had happened, I just said my sister's apartment one time was haunted in this town. And she knew where it was. She knew the apartment building. She knew the number. She knew what floor it was on. She knew everything about it.
Oh, that's crazy too. I wonder if the initial house, like, that it took place in, your experience, if it was haunted before, yeah. Or if like it's something
following her.
Yeah, because like I feel like spirituality is like where there's positive, there's negative, and when you have somebody like a white light spirituality, people that are positive spirituality, I feel like that kind of draws the negative in to like try to push it out. Like, I wondered if because she was such a positive spiritual person, if maybe she drew in the negativity to kind of combat her almost, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I was thinking about that the other day, like good magic and bad magic, and good spirituality and bad spirituality, and like how, where if you have one, you have to have the other.
Oh, for sure.
And I just, man, I don't know. Like, I'm going down all the avenues. Like,
right.
If something traumatic has happened recently, did you open yourself up to it? Like, via that is.
Well, another question I would have is, do you have any, I guess for lack of better words, memorabilia that you would have been wearing that day in the house that you may still currently have, like a watch or
yeah, I didn't think about that,
or a bracelet or whatever?
No, thankfully not that I can think of, because at that time I was in like quite a bit better shape, so none of my clothes really fit from back then. I don't really have any of those clothes.
I know how that goes.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there's anything.
But no, I never really wore watches. I never wear necklaces. Used to have an earring, but I don't really have earrings anymore.
I don't know much about
physically,
like the demonic realm. I don't know.
Right.
They're I don't. Can they almost leave a mark on you?
Yeah. Like, it's so wild that it just came out of like nowhere. Like, it's been dormant for almost 14 years.
Yeah.
Dormant to me, at least. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like I said, it was at her house. It was her deal. She had it in her place. And after I left there, I never had to deal with it again. And like you said, she doesn't live there anymore. So who's watching the basement,
Yeah.
I'd almost like to go and find the people that live there now and just be like, hey, have you been experiencing weird shit in your house?
Oh yeah, like that. If you could do it the right way, it almost wouldn't be a bad idea. Be like, look, I'm not
It's an
trying
awkward
I'm not
conversation.
trying to alarm you, but
There's a demon in your basement.
Yeah.
Oh, freaking. Oh.
And the fact that like all it had to say was that one phrase, like, I remember you, and then that all comes rushing back. Like, that's not a coincidence, you know? Like,
yeah. Like the girl's face, like, and when she first looked at me in the dream, it's kind of like, okay, this guy looks kind of different. Where have I seen this guy before? And then as she smiles, her whole face just changed. It distorted. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And at that point, I was still like, what the hell is this? Until I started getting that feeling that she's giving me that look and getting stared down again.
That is terrifying. Like when you were describing it, I was getting goosebumps. Whenever I hear something like during our calls, or whenever I read something or hear it, I always hold my arm up to Kyle, like show him my goosebumps. I'm like, this is terrifying. And right when you said you were getting goosebumps, I did that to Kyle.
Yeah, it's like one of the most terrifying things I've ever experienced as far as supernatural goes.
Did you like recognize the girl in the hospital?
No, I didn't. Okay, so it's a dream.
Yeah, for sure.
The only person I recognized in it, and I don't even know why they were in it, one of the family members that was visiting the girl was, and you're going to laugh at this because I when I woke up, I was like, what the hell did he have to do with anything? Was Logan Paul, or not Logan Paul, one of the Jake Paul? Nice. One of the fucking Paul brothers from YouTube, and I'm just like, these guys are douchebags. What the hell? I don't know.
I was just
that's curious. Like the only. But as far as like personal friends and family, no, I don't recognize anybody in that thing.
That is so wild. Because like you hear the theories that your mind can't like make up new faces when you dream. Like it has to be a face you've seen previously, and I just wondered if it stood out.
Has anybody checked on Logan or Jake Paul recently?
I can honestly say I have not.
They're probably doing pretty all right.
I imagine so. But yeah, no, like I said, that's why one of the reasons I was like, do I call him? Do I not call him? Was it was, a big part of a dream, but the thing that cemented it was Cassie waking up terrified.
For sure.
Yeah, it like, and I'm like corroborates it.
I'll say they're fucking with somebody that I love now. You know what I mean? Because if that's the case, you can just go fuck off.
Yeah. And not to totally switch gears, but it's kind of relevant. Like I was talking to Kyle the other day. It almost feels like, especially recently, like since maybe the beginning of the year, like if there is a veil surrounding us, it almost feels like it's thinning, because I just like more and more and more and more weird stuff is happening. Like my kids were in for Christmas, right? Okay. And they stayed at the house, and I ended up getting COVID right at the end of it. So I sent them to my mom so they wouldn't be around me. I didn't want them to get sick. Well, while my youngest boy was there, he told my mom that he woke up one night in our house and there was a man standing in his doorway looking through his doorway. And I'm like, because he's had different instances and weird issues in the house when he was younger, but as of lately he hasn't really said anything. And he said it just looked like a black shadow of a man. And I'm like, man, I see the shadow, not frequently, but every so often. And then right after my mom said that, I was sitting up in the living room by myself because I work midnights and my sleep schedule is all fucked. But I was playing Xbox, and right out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw the head of the shadow. And I'm like, man, that's two within the last, 2 weeks or whatever. I'm like, that never happens. And then the Discord has been blown up with people having weird experiences here, just boom, 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 boom. And I know Kyle's had some weird experiences as of lately, and it's almost like the only term I can say is like the veil is thinning, like whatever these things are.
Yeah, it's funny that you use that phrase, because like I was telling you, and one of mine runs in conjunction with Steve's boy. But I was talking to my buddy at work, and he used that direct reference that the veil is thinning because he's noticed in the recent year a lot of the peripheral stuff going on. You've seen a lot more out of your peripheries.
Yeah.
But yeah, Steve told me that story about his son, and I didn't tell my wife about it, I didn't tell anybody about it. I just kind of kept it to myself. And then my wife, I don't know, it's probably 2 or 3 days after you told me that, she sent me a text because I was putting my daughter to sleep and he was in his own room and he was calling for me, but I didn't hear him. And so she went in there and she said that he saw a face in his doorway.
Oh my God.
And then I texted Steve. I'm like, yo, dude, like my kid just now seen something. And I'm like, ironically enough, it was in his doorway. And I'm like, hey, Steve's like, what are the odds? And I go, I don't know. You know, like that's pretty small odds.
Well, you know, if we're talking shadow people, and this isn't recently, I guess this isn't like the last year, but everybody seems to have seen some kind of a shadow person in our house. But that's like since we moved in here, like we bought this place, and well, probably about a year ago, 8 months ago, something like that. Where I get home from work, you know, I might have been off a little early or something, so I come home. Nobody else is home because they had to pick up the kids from school and stuff like that. So I go use the bathroom, and if I'm the only one in the house, why would I close the door? So I'm washing my hands, the door's open, and I see what I think is a shadow person, or not. What I thought was my daughter had run by into our bedroom to grab something. I'm like, oh, you had her home, you know? So I'm like, oh, okay. So I step outside, and I was still the only one home. I was like, I saw a shadow at the side of my eye. I swear to God, I thought it was my daughter or one of my kids. And I'm like, okay, strange. And I just, you know, went on about my day. But yeah,
That's how because I've seen mine probably a handful of times, and I'll always be sitting in the living room, and it'll either like my house is laid out. I have the living room, and then I have my kitchen. You go to the left, and you hit the podcast room and the master bedroom, and if you go straight, it goes off into a part of the house we have built on that's got the boys' bedroom, and I'll either see it moving around the boys' bedroom or moving its way into like our bedroom. And it almost felt residual to me because it's the same thing every time. He's never done anything out of the ordinary until just recently when Maddox said that he had seen something in his doorway looking in. So I'm probably going to have a little talk with my shadow buddy here, who I've been on good terms with up to this point. Like if you want to walk around the house, get your steps in.
Do you, bro? For
your Fitbit or whatever, that's fine. But it's going to be a different story if you start scaring my kids because...
Yeah, and that's kind of how well we talked about that night. I was like, you know, there's something messing with my kids. Like, this is not cool.
Yeah.
This is where Dad draws the line. I don't care where you're coming from. I will get my ass on a John boat and go to Australia if I have to find you. That's what's going to happen. I don't care at that point, you know? And
exactly.
I don't want this to go down a negative road. I don't want the misinterpretation from anything, but as everybody at this point would know, depending on when this airs, I've been looking into the Bledsoe case, right?
Yeah.
And this is relevant, so just hang with me for a second.
It's a Kyle tangent.
Yes. So Steve just said something curious, how he's noticed things in the past year or so. And I'm listening to interview with Ryan Bledsoe, and they got on the subject, and I've always thought about this, but I've never took the time to do it. But, and I'm not saying this is the reason as to why everything's going on, but I'm sure at this point you know about where I'm going. But if you apparently, oh, that's loud. Okay.
Apparently something didn't want you to talk about that.
Yeah, it was like a feedback. It's like a feedback loop once in a while. But anyways, if you switch COVID around, it spells Divock, Divoc, right? And then you go even further and you flop the 19 around, it's 91. Well, apparently the 1 can represent A, 9 can represent I, which can be artificial intelligence. And supposedly through different languages, Divik can equal demonic possession. Apparently, Divik is of a Hebrew start. It suggests...
Dude, every time you start talking... every time Kyle starts talking, the audio explodes.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's some type of feedback loop.
It's super loud.
But
you're saying something that somebody doesn't want you saying.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, this happened multiple times since he started this.
But it suggests, or it's of a Hebrew start. It suggests possession of a malevolent soul. In Latin, it also suggests discrete, partition, upset, segment, tear away, open, isolated, obliterate into.
Great.
Wow. It's just funny that he noted the time slot. And I'm like, no. Like, because I wrote that down just because it was kind of interesting to play with the words and all that number, all that jazz. But I don't know. It's just ironic, something to point out.
I mean, it makes you wonder if, since we've all been quarantined and stuff,
I know one of them words was isolated.
Yeah. Is it
right?
Is it making us more like in tune, I guess, with whatever's beyond this veil? Because
so much has been going on. I feel like I'm going crazy.
UFO sightings have been up, and just think of like the traumatic stress this whole thing has had on everyone.
Yeah.
Are we like, did this whole thing just open us up to be susceptible?
Giant, like trauma ritual?
Yeah. To make us be susceptible to all this shit?
I don't know, dude.
We go on with our lives. We go through stuff every day. We're always moving, going to work, coming home, doing something. You're always doing something. But if you're isolated enough, then you'll start to notice shit that you never noticed before.
Oh,
something
100%.
that's always been there. Something that you've never seen before, but it's always fucking been there. And that kind of, like I said, I go ghost hunting, right? I'll spend 4 or 5 hours at a place, and sometimes I'll catch something, sometimes I won't. But you got to think about that. Oh, well, everybody says the place is haunted, but I've been here for 5 hours and I haven't seen shit. 5 hours is nothing. These people are like living in this stuff. People who see a spirit or a ghost, they've been there years. Like if you're living in your house for however long and you're seeing something, I mean, you're not seeing it all the time. You're seeing it once in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
So the fact, like you said, being isolated, you're noticing stuff that's always been there, but now you're basically forced to see it.
It's possible.
You're not leaving. You're not going to the mall. You're not fucking going to hang out with friends. You're staying there.
And to like circle back, you said everyone in your house has experienced the shadow. Has there been any like malevolency from the shadow? Has it?
No. Down in, we have upstairs, downstairs, but it's pretty much close to the same level. It's an addition that goes down. Anyways, Cassie used to sleep down there sometimes, just because it was like a cooler room during the summer and stuff. And she would hear footsteps come in there at night, and eventually the door would open, footsteps, something would sit on the bed, and that was like, she'd just be sitting there with her eyes open, like looking the other way towards the wall, like, oh, don't fucking touch me. Don't touch me. Whatever this is, just don't touch me. And she'd be like, did you come in the room last night? And I'm like, oh no, I fucking fell asleep out in the living room or something, Pretty much, sometimes I just sleep where I lay, or wherever I pass out, where I fall asleep, and that's where I stay. So she's like, did you come in there last night? I'm like, no. Well, something did. I'm like, well, no, it wasn't me. So like, we've had experiences in this house, but nothing malevolent. Man. A dude, okay, it's not like malevolent, but and this was years ago, whenever I did a video on going down to what the video is called, The Murder Cabin, on my channel, and I don't remember exactly, a couple years ago. Anyways, it was a location just over the border of South Dakota into Iowa, where I believe it was 4 boys were murdered at this, what am I thinking? State park. And they were out smoking weed and hanging out. And these guys came and they murdered 4 of them. They took the girl that was with them and they did terrible things to her. And it was a whole situation. It's called Get Manito Murders, if you ever want to look at that. And they died close to this cabin, not directly at this cabin, but like basically right next to the cabin. So I go down to this cabin, I do the whole investigation thing. And we hear footsteps. It's pretty cool. I'm there for a few hours. And as like a token, because I'd always wanted to be there, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? Is this cabin is falling apart. There's pieces of it laying around. I'm going to take a piece of it home with me because it's a pretty cool fucking
Smart.
thing to take. Yeah, exactly. I know. I thought about sending it to you guys, to be honest with you.
Send it over.
Yeah,
Fuck
I'll put it next to the haunted doll and everything else we got.
It's kind of the thing. You guys are always like, send us weird shit. I'm like, thinking about it. And like, it never really fucked with me too much after the situation. But after I got home and I'm editing the video for the channel, I'm sitting in my computer desk, you know, clacking away on the keyboard, editing, and something feels like it grabs the back of my chair and it pulls me backwards. Like, it leans my chair backwards. I'm like sitting forward, and eventually now I was sitting forward. Now I'm sitting backwards. And I said, whatever this is, could you please let me go? And I sat back up. I'm like, okay. And I just look at that rock and I'm like, fuck. But the whole like shadow person, it's been around since before then. The footsteps and all that had been around since before then. It's just in that situation, I was like, did I invite something back here by taking this rock? And then, you know,
That
Yeah.
is 100% where I was going to go.
Yeah.
Next question before that happened, I'm like, have you looked into any cases or anything that could have like open, like made you more susceptible to what's going on? But I'm pretty sure the traumatic murder cabin rock probably, I mean,
It's a nice bridge.
right, it's part of the actual cabin. And I'm just like, okay. But
that's, I mean, it's not directly connected to you.
no, it's not. And I know, like, in your comments, you're going to be a bunch of people like, this guy's a moron. But hear me out. I
Like
agree.
a paranormal Bifrost. Like you're like, hey, I got this open. Anybody that wants to come in and hang out, you're more than welcome.
I got this.
Right.
I got this trauma rock from the
Yeah.
fucking murder cabin.
And like this area where this came from, like, I think, Kyle, you'd have a heyday reading about it, because there have been reports of like alien ships landing over there
Cool.
and taking
Let's
off
go.
over there.
Let's go.
Like, there's another YouTuber. He's from a town that's actually only like an hour from here, and he's pretty big at this point. I don't know if you ever heard of Paranormal Files on YouTube.
I think
This
I have.
sounds familiar.
Like, I don't want to say anything ill towards the guy, but I'm pretty sure some of his videos aren't 100% accurate. And if you want us, you know, I'm not talking shit, but I was a fan of his channel. And whenever he first started out, like fresh in high school and stuff, he went out there and he found what according to his channel, was a heart out in the grass out there.
Like a human heart?
I'm not saying it was human, but he said he found a heart. And
Like
it
a
was like,
biological heart.
yes,
Well, that's
What
weird.
the fuck?
like, it's on his channel. Like, he goes out to the murder cabin. And he still goes out there every now and then, but he doesn't live around here anymore. But he'll still come back. I think his parents live in Sioux Falls.
I feel
but-
pretty weird if I found a heart just laying on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't
Any
matter
heart.
what kind of heart it is,
Yeah.
but
If I'm like, Steve, look, there's a heart.
especially when you're at a place called the murder cabin.
Well,
Well, there's this lady. She is a psychic lady. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I talked to her. I used her on my channel. This Paranormal Files guy, he was a really good friend with her. He used her on his channel. And she's a sweetheart. She's a lovely lady. But I was talking to her about it, and she's told me the story about they went out there as teenagers, and she's a psychic. She's very open to all this stuff. And she said, I'm not going back out there. I will not step foot out in that place ever again. I'm like, what happened? So she told me the story about her and her friends went out there and they're walking, and she kept hearing like this like growling sound. And she's like, what the hell is going on here? You know? And it's just her and her friend that are hearing it, and it seems like it's getting closer and closer. And it was like in the middle of the day, she's even telling me that's happening. So I'm like, okay. Well, she said, well, we left. Like, I got out of there. And we're pulling back into town in Sioux Falls, which is like not very far away, like literally 12 miles from it. They come up to the stoplight, and this old piece of crap car comes up. They said it was just rust bucket of a car, and this really odd looking old man looks at him, and he just stares at him. He's got like a convertible. They got a convertible, and he just looks at him. He opens his mouth, and that exact same growl come out of his mouth.
It's Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah. And she was like, nope, never going back there again. So that was like one of her experiences that she'll go like to the entrance of it, but she's not going in there.
If I saw an old man in a rusty car and he opened his mouth and a growl came out, I'm going to be fucking scared.
The same growl that you've been hearing at the
the
murder cabin hearing.
Yeah.
How long ago did you go to the murder cabin?
I call it the murder cabin. That's kind of something I dubbed it because, people were murdered.
From here on out, it is the murder cabin, dog.
The Gitche Manitou areas. So if you just type in Gitche, Iowa or whatever, the whole thing is like in the 70s. It's really, really messed up ordeal what happened. But like I said, the heart goes out to the family members and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, yeah, it's just ever since, like even before then, though, it's been a hotbed for supernatural stuff.
How long has it been? Like, when did you go there?
2 years ago. I'm pretty sure it's 2 years ago.
That's pretty relevant.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
I thought about going back because when I did it in the daytime. I'm thinking, should I go back at nighttime? And then I'm also like, is something fucking messing with your computer chair? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Maybe get in contact with your psychic friend and see if like.
Just hand her the rock.
Or just see if she can get like some kind of read on you. Be like, yo, is there anything fucking going on with me here? Because
I would try cleansing in your house, man.
Yeah, that would probably be a good start.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get some sage and burn it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people in our Discord that can help with that type of shit too. That and I don't know if you're ultra religious or not, but I mean you can rebuke it in the name of Jesus. There's a lot of different avenues to go down. When it comes to that, all of it's like terrifying.
This was 2 days ago where I had that dream and that whole thing happened with her. And
yeah, I'm with you. That's the part that would get me the most is the fact that she felt something off too.
Yeah, and
if it was just a dream, I would never have called you guys.
Right.
To be honest with you, if you never told me like how terrified she was.
Because I mean, we don't even know how. We don't necessarily know if it's demonic or whatever, but we don't even know how these entities work.
No.
Like maybe. Like it had that first attempted attachment on you, 14 years ago, and the aunt kind of kept it away. It's like, yo, chill the fuck out. Go back to the basement. Well, now, like when you dabble in the paranormal and everything, like you're making yourself a little more susceptible to it than a everyday normal person who doesn't look into all this shit.
Right.
And
like I'm tying it to the absolute, like the trauma event that happened in that cabin, and like the fact that you took a piece of that with you.
Paranormal Bifrost.
Yeah, it's almost like it's not that far out of the imagination that there was enough trauma attached to that building. When you pick that up, whatever that thing was is like,
gotcha.
Here we go.
Right.
There's my doorway.
It's kind of like you guys were saying on one of your episodes recently that, people use spirit boxes, basically the same thing as the Ouija board.
Yeah.
I've always been told, hey, don't mess with the Ouija board because demonic people will come in there and they'll lie to you and cause all kind of trouble. And I use the spirit box, and you guys are saying, that's the same situation. I'm thinking to myself, you are not wrong.
We had an email after I made that comment. Let me find it. Yeah. Richard emailed us and he said, with the ghost box, a flashlight test, an EVP, etc., you're inviting communication with a particular tool. Whereas with the Ouija board, you're inviting the entity to use yourself as a vessel for the communication by guiding your hands. So I did want to put that out there. There, he said, therefore implying permission to inhibit your body. Just my thoughts.
Well, first off, thank you, Richard, because that just made me feel 100% better. Like, not 100%,
Yeah,
but
that's
like
actually
quite a bit
really
better.
fucking good point.
Yeah, because when he said that, I'm like, you know what, you're right. Except like
I'll just put the planchette down and go, if you want to fuck with the planchette, go for it.
because when
Good
you
idea.
watch like all these ghost hunter like
Yeah, but
shows,
you're
on
going to
YouTube,
extra shit if you see that planchette moving around.
yeah,
You're
it
going to be like,
spins
oh,
around,
no.
like, gives you the finger.
No.
But a lot of these things, like even with like a bunch of YouTube channels I watch and shit, when they go in and they're using the EMF meter and they're using the flashlight test, a lot of times they'll say, use my energy,
That's true.
which I feel
That's
like
true.
is exactly the same as inviting it
I'm
through
with
your
you there.
body with the plant.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
See, I've never thought about that. I use flashlights. I use a spirit box. So,
Oh, I'm using a flashlight.
I've used have you seen the flashlight test where,
No, I'm just using the fucking flashlight.
well, I figured as much.
no, I do the flashlight test where you have the flashlight sitting there and you ask it to turn it on or
Yeah,
off.
and
to
it'll
answer
turn
questions.
itself. I don't know. When we went to the Campsville house and we did our investigation, that was probably 2010. We did the flashlight test and it was responding to us.
That's creepy.
It was fucking weird.
That's creepy.
I went to the Valentine, Nebraska has a old school that's haunted by a little girl, which if you're going to be haunted by somebody, you know, a little girl's like, what are they going to do really? Like,
Oh, that's like, for me, that's like the worst.
Be a demon.
Yeah. Because they say demons act like children all the
They
time.
try to disguise
Yeah.
themselves, which interestingly enough is what was reported to haunt the Campsville house. They took that picture of the little ghost,
yeah,
the
that's
ghost
creepy.
kid up in the abandoned attic, and I'm like, I don't know.
it's always seemed like he's always like a little girl recently. Like, I went to the haunted island in Pierre, South Dakota, which I've been to that island growing up. I never knew it haunted until Chad Lewis, the guy I talked to you guys about before. I bought his book on haunted places around this area, and he's talking about that place. I'm like, you know, that's
Let's
amazing.
go.
So yeah, I loaded up. I went down there, and supposedly, like, the legend is like people hear and see this little girl come out, and she's like, "Hey, I need help! Help me!" And so she started running into the forest, and you see a little kid yelling for help. What are you guys gonna do?
Not
No,
run
you
into the
have good
forest.
No, you as a father, you would be like, "Holy crap, this little kid needs help."
Yeah, if she looked like a solid kid. But if
And
there
that's
was
what
anything off
everybody's
about that
claiming
little
to see.
girl, you're
what
on your
people
own.
That's what people claim to have seen is this little girl. So they run in after her, and it draws
I
her
don't know,
draws
dude.
her,
You know
like
we
farther
would.
in. You
Not-
know you would.
Not if
If it was both of us together, we'd be like, we have.
If you didn't know this place is haunted, you get her out chilling. Maybe you got to go.
Yeah,
to this
but is
island,
she
you drive
wearing,
out there
like,
on a boat.
old school 1700 clothes.
No, she doesn't have
True.
a sign that says, "Yo, I'm a ghost."
Right?
You never know.
And of course, people go farther into the island, and she just disappears. And you're like,
yeah,
oh,
getting
no.
drawn into the woods is one of the worst case scenarios.
Follow my map here. All right.
No.
So, Burton's going to all these places that are supposedly haunted by young females. He goes to the murder cabin where
They did bad things to a
to
female.
a young female. He has the dream,
Which is a female.
which was a young female.
Okay,
It's a
now I got
pattern.
like, you know how you're showing your arm to Kyle earlier? My arm has goosebumps on it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
Ironic.
I don't know where the map is going, but like there's a common theme there, especially since it's like it presented itself to you in the dream through a young sick
Yeah.
girl. Like,
In the murder cabin, like, obviously a girl did get hurt there, but
Right.
the only ones that died there, and I'm not saying like I said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, were boys.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
But
But
like you said, a girl did get hurt there.
yeah,
But
like,
there have been
Which would have been
multiple
ultra
stories.
traumatic.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They probably it's hard to even fathom what that kind of trauma could manifest.
Right.
Man, I don't know. It's like it's so hard to pinpoint what could set it off, considering it's what we do. You know what I mean? Like you traveling to all these different reportedly haunted places and looking in to all this different stuff. It just almost opens it up.
And like on I guess now that I think about it, now that you bring it up, I do go to these places. Cassie comes with me. So on the haunted island, she was holding the camera for me. I'm talking to the spirit box, trying to get information. I heard there's a little girl out here. Are you a little girl? And I got some pretty definitive EVPs coming through that spirit box. Like, what's your name? I got Caroline. So I'm like, okay, Caroline, how old are you? 8. I'm like, okay. I'm asking, what happened to you? And she said, killed or murdered or something like that. And I'm like, okay, so you're 8-year-old. Your name's Caroline. You were murdered out here. Not to say how long ago. I don't, I can't confirm any of this stuff because it's not written down in the freaking record books that somebody died out there. But at the same time, I'm asking these questions in the video. We have like an EVP that's not the spirit box, and it's like right next to where Cassie is, right? So she's like, what was that? And I'm like, did you hear that? And she's like, I think it's a boat. And I was like, it didn't sound like a boat, like anywhere near this island right now. And she's like, it sounded like a boat. But if you listen to the EVPs or the EVP itself, it sounds like a voice. It doesn't sound like it comes in very clear, but if you're a dead person, you don't have a throat. So you're manifesting energy, and it sounds very much like a voice, kind of. So I'm like, okay. And I'm going through, I listen to all my footage. I go through it all frame by frame, quiet as hell. Me just put some big ass headphones. And I heard that, and like that's in the video. It's pretty loud. But then we go to the haunted school with a little girl, and I'm talking to it. I ask, if you're in here, can you turn this like flashlight on? I'm not going to hurt you. I'm sitting there. And whenever I turn my head, the light comes on. And Cassie's like, holy crap. She laughs in the video. And I'm like, what? She's like, look at your light. And I look at the light, and the light's on. So then, of course, I'm trying to catch evidence of a spirit. So after that, I'm like, okay, if you're in here, could you run up these stairs as fast as you can? Can you run down these stairs as fast as you can? And, I'm talking to this thing, and Cassie, she's like looking at me. She's like, I was like, what? She's like, something just touched my hand. So whatever it is, like spirits, little girls, ghosts, they keep getting attracted to her. She's a mother figure, kids. Like, I don't know. It just seems like everywhere we go, they're interested in her.
Now this is your old lady's fault.
No.
Let's be clear.
No, absolutely not.
I'm
the one. She'll be like, "Oh, way to throw me under the bus." No, I'm not.
Do you do like any? Do you have like any protection ritual you have when you go or leave?
We make sure to state very clearly that we are leaving. That you are not allowed to follow us. You do not have permission to follow us home. And that's pretty much it. We just say goodbye and we cut our ties right there. And that's something like she's 100% like better than I am at that. She's good. Like, all right, we got to say goodbye to this thing. I'm like, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Unless it hitches a ride on the rock from the murder cabin.
That's true.
I'm going to send you guys that damn rock. I swear. Give me an address after this and I will send it to you.
Great.
That'd be fucked up if you did, and then we started having stuff happen.
I will fight the murder cabin demon.
All right, so I'm going to change gears real quick because there's a couple things that I want to talk about, and it'd be interesting to hear your reaction.
Absolutely.
So this past week, I had 2 super weird things happen to me. One of them was early in the week, and I get to work. I'm by myself, so I had to drive down south to work with some other guys. It's 7:35 in the morning, 7:40, somewhere around there. So you have the morning sun coming up, light in the sky, but the sun's not fully out. And I look off to what would be the east as I'm driving, and I notice something reflecting the sunlight in the sky. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird, but it was bright enough to catch my eye. And as I keep looking at it as I'm driving, I'm kind of doing a back and forth. I actually noticed 2 of them, and they're flying in a formation. One like almost like fighter jets would. So if they weren't fighter jets, what the fuck were they?
Fighter UFOs.
Fighter UFOs for sure. I
Because
mean,
there's nothing else around here that flies in formation.
No.
And it had that staggered formation where you had almost like a flying V, but only with two. You know, you had one in front and one off to the right. So I was like, okay, that's a little weird, but I didn't think much of it.
Scott Air Force Base is down that way.
We weren't. I was just leaving Carrollton.
Oh, so it's up here.
Yeah, it was up this
Okay.
way.
All right, so it's not that close. Never mind.
Well, and they do on the occasion up around Winchester, Root House area. They will do test flights of fighter jets, but this is first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So
that was the first thing that I thought of. You said you were down south. I'm like, well, Scott Air Force.
Yeah.
That's a ways away from me.
Yeah, and then the other one was way weirder, and this is one of them things that happen and you feel like you're going crazy. So I'm sitting in my truck. It's lunch. I'm playing Marvel Strike Force on my phone, and out of my peripheral, I noticed something in the window, and it was a split second. But imagine, and it's hard for me to describe. I described it to Steve earlier, but you ever seen like the big pieces of like plexiglass or glass that they're like foggy or hazy. They're meant to prevent you from actually seeing what's on the other side of them, but they still give like a
silhouette.
Yeah, like you could see that there's green grass over there, but you can't actually tell that it's grass.
Almost like frosted.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I saw that at my window for a couple seconds, and then it took off, which would almost be like a Glimmerman sighting.
Yeah. God.
But it was low. It was low like a kid's. Because all I would, if I had to describe it, it would be like, and let's pretend that this is the Glimmerman. It would just be a head right at the base of the window. Like its chin would have been like, if I had the window down, it would have been able to sit on the door lip.
Just like peeking in.
All you would see is the head.
That's creepy.
You're not the first person to see something like that. You know, like there's quite a few stories out there of very similar stories.
It's just it was so bizarre. It didn't scare me or nothing. It just caught me off guard where I'm like, did I really just see that? Or am I just being dumb?
That's why, like, Berton had his experience. We had our experience. You had your experience. I'm like, man.
And then our kids.
That is a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially within the last, like, 2 months.
Yeah, for sure.
And like your wife said, oh, you guys brought something home with you. I'm like, well, we haven't been anywhere.
No, we went to Cemetery X.
Cemetery X, which that's...
And we definitely didn't do anything when we left.
No,
we chugged monsters and got in the car and drove away.
Yeah, I ate some Twizzlers there. I didn't think about doing a whole don't follow us home.
No, I didn't either.
And what Ghost Hunter Dave say?
Yeah,
it'll follow you home. Son of a bitch.
Right.
We both got really weird vibes when we were there.
Yeah, it's a weird place, man. But and then like after she said that, I'm like, man, maybe it crossed my mind like, what if somebody or something is like, instead of them following us home, what if something is sending this shit our way?
Yeah, and that's when I said I'll get in a boat and I'll go to Australia. I even said it to my wife, and she said the same thing you did. She's like, "Why are you going to Australia?"
Yeah, Australia.
I'm like,
you were real adamant about Australia.
It's just cementing how far I'm willing to go because I don't like water, and I definitely would not get on a boat and drive across the ocean.
I thought you picked
somebody.
I thought you picked Australia because like somebody was trying to curse you from Australia.
My wife thought the same thing. I'm like, you're just not smart.
Everything wants to kill you in Australia.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm saying.
I know that, but I'm just that's just the level of dedication that I have right now. Okay.
I don't know. As soon as you messaged me when I was driving into work, I'm like, dude,
it's weird, dude.
There's some collective like Ghostbuster-esque weird shit going on.
I wish I was a Ghostbuster.
I don't know, man. My theory is if it wasn't attached to you this whole time, which I don't believe it was, because the aunt pretty much put it to bed.
Yeah.
You know, like
she explained to me there, like, no, it doesn't leave the basement until something happened in the basement.
Yeah.
And then that's when it comes up. And I'm like,
But
well,
when Kyle made that point that there's nobody protecting the basement anymore, you know, maybe it remembered you from being down there. It almost makes
like one that got away or something.
Yeah, it almost makes me want you to reach out to the skinny kid and see if he's had anything pop up, you know, because if it attached itself to it or attached itself to him, and see if anything has popped up with him.
Yeah.
Maybe it made its way out of there and it's like, I'm gonna make my rounds, see what everybody's doing. And they're like, oh, Berton's taking shit from the murder cabin. Yeah. He's probably down, you know, like.
Right. Oh, he wants to play a game. No, I fucking don't. Not with you. Like,
yeah.
Like that's the kind of thing. I'm down for ghost hunting. I'm want to find paranormal shit, absolutely. But demons, like I'm drawing the line because just as my experience alone, like whatever you've seen, what I saw, especially like I told you the story. We just went over this. If you see that, there's nothing. Nobody can tell you paranormal stuff's not real. Like, you know, I'm not asking your opinion on it. I'm telling you what happened.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's kind of one of them. It's like a catch-22, right? Because I'm kind of the same way. But like Steve, you know, Steve will look at you like when we were hunting egress. He's like, and I was scared at first, and he's like, "Oh, we're in the shit now," and I'm like, "I didn't sign up for this shit." But in hindsight, after it's all said and done, it's like, well, yeah, you actually kind of did.
We went looking
exactly,
and we found it.
That's what I mean. Like, and it's not just in your case or our case. I think it's with everybody. Everybody's like, "Yo, I want to go find Bigfoot until he rips my friend in half and throws me off a cliff."
Everybody wants to call out until something fucking answers back.
Exactly.
Me and Cassie, we like watch like new top 5 stuff like that, ghost videos. Somebody will be like, "If you're in here, could you make a noise?" And then like a class will slide across the room, and then they'll just scream their heads off and run away. And I'm just like, "Isn't that what you just asked for?"
Exactly. That's exactly it. Like,
it is. I mean, yeah. To a degree, we are asking for fucked up things to happen to us.
Yes.
To a degree. But I'm with you.
To a degree.
In the same boat that, when it comes to you being malicious, just get the fuck out of here. Because I ain't doing that.
If you're like a pure evil thing, then guess what? I don't.
But I don't. Yeah, I don't feel like when we're looking into these things that we specify that.
Right.
So
like what do I say? If you're a ghost, you talk to me. But if you're a demon, no.
Just like, go over there.
Like, oh, he said no.
Nice spirits is who we want.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I guess, and I hate to have to admit that you're right on that, but you are right on that because you are talking to whatever's there. And I even say that, well, if anybody's here or anything's here, I'm just like, now that we're talking about it, I'm just like, what an asshole.
It is like we can't pick.
We want all the benevolent smoke. We don't want malevolent.
We can't pick and choose when we go into that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know, man. If I feel like your next best bet, especially since it is essentially raising its head again, letting you know that it still knows, I would definitely do something to bless the house. Yep. Sage it, or
that's probably going to be
holy water, holy oil, anything of that nature. Because I mean,
100%.
Jesus seems to be the cure all when it comes to that shit.
It's weird, dude. It is really weird when you look into that. But I mean, if it works, it works.
Yeah, if it works, exactly. If it works, it works.
Yeah,
I mean, you could like John. He was going to get us moonbeam water, and we could spray ghosts with it. And if that works, I mean, I'm good with it.
That's what I'm saying. People on one side won't believe in holy water, but people on the other side will believe in the moonbeam water. Right. People on that side don't believe in. I'm
just saying, if whatever works, I don't care where it's from. You could go buy deer piss from Walmart, and if that works,
I wouldn't use it.
I'm just saying, if it does work, then I'll use it.
I'll deal with the shadow people before I deer piss my house under.
I meant putting it like a squirt gun and shooting at a ghost.
Oh.
Not dumping it all over your house.
I thought you were blessing your house with deer piss.
No, that would be very smart.
We have derailed once again.
Yes, we have.
Well, we do.
We did.
But yeah, that would be my next move would be to try just try to keep it out of your house and away from your family,
For
especially
sure.
your wife, because she seems like,
She could be a sensitive too.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe
I've always kind of thought that since we've been doing all this.
maybe she doesn't know or hasn't fully accepted it, but like you said,
Well, it's just like, that owl story I told you about. You talk about the owl for the first time. First time you hear about it, the owl shows up. And that never happened to me whenever I first heard about it. And I tell her the story. And what happens not 2-3 miles down the road, the freaking owl shows up.
it's almost like she's a magnet.
Very well could be.
Magnet for the weird. You have to look out for her, dog.
I am.
So yeah, that would be my next move. I would do something, burn sage or anything. Salt.
Yes.
You could salt around the entrances. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not good with that stuff.
Same.
I just wing it. I'm like, whatever. If you want to hang out here, it's cool. Just don't be a dick. But yeah, you're gonna have to keep me informed if anything else comes up. I hope we don't have to do a follow up, but if it does, we will.
Right.
Right.
But we will definitely wrap this one up now, man. I hope it doesn't go any further than this, because
I honest to God hope that this is the end of it. I'm gonna sage the house, holy water, do whatever I have to do.
Yeah, that would be my next move.
Maybe I'll just have like a priest come and bless my shower, so I'm always getting bathed in it.
If you could, it might even be worth reaching out to the aunt and ask her what her steps were when she put that thing back to bed. Because if anybody knows it sounds like she knows it best. So
Right.
just to be on the safe side.
Good thinking.
But yeah, everybody check out Berton's YouTube channel. If you want to plug that again, definitely go ahead.
Yeah, it's Local Legends, Berton Moran. It's a long name, I know. I thought about just going Local Legends, but I wanted to add my name in there. So Local Legends, Berton Moran on YouTube.
Go watch him chase ghosts and take stuff from the murder cabin. So thanks so much for taking the time to hang out with us today, Berton. It was a good time, even if it was at your expense.
Yeah, thank you guys for talking to me. You guys have a lot of good points, and I really appreciate it.
That's what we try to be here for. We're not the smartest guys in the realm, but
Not at all.
sometimes we come up with some
Every once in a while.
information. All right, Holoskites, until we meet again, stay weird, stay safe, and if you go to any paranormal locations with murder in the title, leave everything there.